What does it mean for the language to be pure? Or when people say they want English to be pure, what are they talking about? Was Shakespeare pure? I mean, in fact, every stage of history, languages are, first of all, there is no such thing as a language. There are just lots of different ways of speaking that different people have, which are more or less similar to one another. And some of them may have prestige associated with them. In fact, language, the way we use it, is some very complicated socio-political notion which has not much to do with things that are in people's heads.
And sometimes it may be useful to follow some rule that somebody made up for some arbitrary reason that's followed in the formal, in the literary canon. Okay, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it's basically a question. It's the same kind of question. It's a question of whether to accept usually artificial norms that have been designed for whatever purpose. They have no status other than the status that people agree to give to them.
As any scientist ought to understand, or anyone who uses their sense, if the people in East Oakland happen to have all the money and power, Ebonics would be good English, and what they talk at Princeton and Yale would be some weird kind of dialect or something like that. I mean, whatever these things are, they're not psychological or biological or linguistic notions.
There's nothing right or wrong about driving on the right. Okay, it's just, there's a law that says drive on the right, and life is better in that case if everybody follows the law, so you follow it. In other cases, like norms of grammar, it's almost totally arbitrary. It's like whether you should wear a tie. You can decide to do it because it's easier to get by in the world or whatever, but there's nothing of any significance about it.
For example, some of them may be the speech of a conquering group or a wealthy group or a priestly caste or one thing or another, and we may decide, okay, those are the good ones and some other one's the bad one. But if social and political relations reversed, we'd make the opposite conclusions. Let's say take Black English today. Black English is considered not quite proper English. On the other hand, if blacks happen to have all the power and own all the corporations and whites were working for them, it would be the other way around. Okay, Black English would be the language of culture and science and so on, and the stuff that you and I speak would be considered a degenerate dialect, which you have to get people out of so that they'll be able to think.
In African American language, you can say things like, he happy, or John tall, or he da man. You might say, well, okay, folks are just leaving out is or are. But they're not just leaving it out. In language, nothing is ever just like random. You can just leave it out or put it in. No, there's a very, very strict set of rules. Like there's some places where you can't leave it out.
Black English examples. Here we're looking at the negative statements in African American English. Black English speakers have retained the ain't of early British English, but have expanded its use so that it represents not only, am not, but also, isn't, aren't, does not, don't, hasn't, and haven't. A noteworthy characteristic of African American English is the double negatives. In many languages like French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, the use of double negatives is not only accepted, but also required for correct grammatical construction. While Black English shares this trait with some other non-standard English dialects, Black English boasts triple negatives, as in, I don't owe nobody nothing, which translate to, I don't owe anybody anything. Moreover, AAE speakers are free to invert the subject and helping verb to construct negative statements such as can't nobody beat us. Table 2.7 presents all of these options. Example number 2, understanding the habitual be. The habitual be is a grammatical feature in African American English that expresses an action that happens regularly or is a usual state rather than a one-time event. So here are some key takeaways. The habitual be means an action happens regularly or as a routine. Without be, the sentence refers to something happening right now instead of a habit. In standard English, words like usually, often, or always are needed to show the same meaning. Our third example, understanding done as a perfective marker in AAVE. So in AAVE, done is used before a verb to indicate that an action has been completed or happened in the past. This is called a perfective aspect marker, meaning it emphasizes that something is finished. So here are some key takeaways. Done in AAVE is used to emphasize that an action is fully completed and often implies frustration, surprise, or finality. In standardized English, done is replaced with has, have, already to express the same meaning. This feature makes AAVE more efficient, as done simplifies complex perfect tense structures. Many past tense verbs in AAVE follow the same pattern as standard English, but may sometimes omit the past tense marker in specific contexts. For example, seen instead of saw.
Speakers of AAE are not careless with language. Like all people, they are very aware of the rules of their native dialect and instantly know when they're broken or misused.
Are you sure that you want to get turned with your girls this weekend?
I promised them a free trip, and it's turned with a T.
No matter what kind of English you speak, you're going to sound different if you're from New York City, Atlanta, or Philadelphia, and the regional phonetic variation in AAE reflects that. However, there are some common phonological features. TH stopping, where a D sound replaces a TH, so that this and that might be dis and dat. TH can also be replaced by an F or a V, so nothing and smooth might be nothing and smooth. Consonant cluster reduction, where multiple consonants at the end of a word are simplified into one. So for example, lift and test might sound like lift and test. The common pronunciation of ask as ax is an example of metathesis, in which two speech sounds are allowed in flexible order. Many English words were derived through metathesis. For example, bird and horse used to be brid and hros. Several others are currently undergoing it, like nuclear, introduce, and prescription.
In addition to sound features, AAE often differs from other types of American English in grammar, which is fairly constant across the country. One of the most maligned features of AAE's grammar is the so-called double negative, as in, I ain't seen nobody. But this disparagement reflects a misunderstanding of how language works. Language isn't like math, where two negatives cancel each other out. In many languages like Spanish, Greek, and Hebrew, a second negative serves to confirm or amplify the negation, known as negative concord. For instance, the Spanish sentence, no vi a nadie, literally translates to I didn't see nobody. Even standardized American English employs a bit of negative concord. If you want to make this sentence negative, you have to adjust the verb and the object. The anybody serves the same function as nobody, to remind the listener that the statement is negative.
Some other grammatical features of AAE include possessive S absence. Instead of the man's hat or my mama's car, you'd have the man hat or my mama car. Question word order. Instead of why aren't they going, you might hear why they ain't going. Finna, which etymologists trace back to the southern phrase fixin' to, might replace going to or gonna. I'm going to go to the store might be I'm finna go to the store. Zero copula. The connecting verb to be can be removed from sentences where they would form a contraction. So who is that might become who dat, and she's my sister might become she my sister. Other languages like Japanese and Russian also employ zero copula. For instance, anadoma literally translates to she at home. No S on third person singular. MAE changes form only for third person singular verbs. I run, you run, she runs, we run, they run. Only one S in there. AAE keeps all verb forms consistent and regular. In many cases, AAE's verb conjugation can actually achieve more nuance and precision than mainstream American English. When I say she is working, I generally mean one of two things. Either she has a job or she is currently doing work right now. In AAE, those are differentiated. She working means that she is currently working at this moment, and she be working means that she works on a regular basis. And the third option, she been working. She is working and has been for a while.
Now, some of these features also occur in other varieties of English, and not all of them are used by every speaker of AAE. But taken together, they index AAE, which means they serve as a sign that points to a shared history and cultural identity. Because that history is fraught with tension, discrimination, and violence, it's not surprising that AAE is considered a controversial topic. It is the most broadly studied variety of American English, and has been the subject of many high-profile court cases over issues like school instruction and linguistic profiling in employment and criminal justice. Attitudes of stigma and language prejudice have forced many speakers of AAE to be bi-dialectal, able to speak both AAE and whatever is considered the mainstream norm of their region. Alternating between two different dialects or languages or social linguistic practices is called code switching. It can occur casually, the way bilingual children of Spanish-speaking parents will transition from English to Spanish back to English in one sentence. But it can also be socially mandated. Say, if you speak in a formal register of Japanese with many honorifics when addressing your boss, versus the more colloquial language you may use with your pals.
Most speakers of AAE are adept at switching to MAE based on context and setting, like a job interview or other professional situation.